they got somebody else, that money would have to be returned and then donated again.
Well, speaking of money, David, I read today that her campaign has raised over $500 million. $500 million.
Yep. 81 million just during the DNC alone.
541 million.
I mean, how crazy is that? And for me, follow the money. I think that money's might push you over the threshold and get it to the White House. I know Pennsylvania's a dead heat. Michigan's a dead heat. Minnesota's a dead heat. All these states. But let me say hello to a few people real quick. Lauren, how you doing? Faith, V. Rohan, we see you, V. Rohan Howard. We got Ann Hero in the room. Matt Cool. Guys, if you want to come up, you're more than welcome to come up. I had this problem today because I saw Tulsi Gabbard, who was lambasting Trump just a few years ago as the second coming of the Antichrist, on stage supporting him today. I don't know who's worse, her or RFK Jr. RFK Jr., what he did by that endorsement, he probably estranged himself from his family for the rest of their lives.
Didn't the vice president lambaste Trump? That's now on the ticket in 2016.
Yes.
Y'all remember when Kamala did that interview and they asked about her calling Joe a racist throughout the debates, and she was like, "It was a debate!" And she cackled the whole time. I remember that. Pepperidge Farms remembers too.
Why worse, Jay? Why are Tulsi and RFK that are trying to provide unity? Why is that a bit?
It's just my opinion. Dr. McStay, I just got to mute you up because I get feedback. I'm sorry. It's just my opinion, Dr. Mick. Especially with RFK, bro. I mean, he comes from a political dynasty, right? And he's been a Democrat his whole life. And it seems to me like it's spoiled food for him. He didn't get to be on all the ballots, and he didn't get to be on he wouldn't be able to get on any debate stages. She was acting like a petulant child and saying, "You know what, fuck you, I'll go to the other side." What that says to me is everything he said prior to the endorsement was bullshit.
Well, Jay, what about, you guys were just complaining about how Kamala wasn't really elected, that they kind of just slipped her in because of the war chest. And then you're going to take RFK and be like, well, he tried his hardest and they just shoved him out. You wouldn't be upset about that?
I have a problem with how they anointed her. I do. I think what the problem for me is that whoever voted in the primary, the votes meant nothing, and they put this woman at the top of the ticket, and to me that's a problem. Anybody that voted for Biden or voted for anybody, whoever they voted for, bro. Before that, then nothing. What are our elections being, Will?
But well, I mean that's kind of my point. So if you take that and you stack it on the other stuff, the funding for Ukraine to continue on that, and the way they deal with big pharma, how they don't really, everything's paid for by them, and all the media question on RFK as soon as he came out and wanted to run. You don't think all of that he's looking at the Democratic Party and being like, this doesn't look like the party that my father was. I mean, he said this in a speech. He was like, none of my father or my uncle would not be for this. How am I supposed to stand up and say I'm part of this party if they don't even want me here? So it makes more sense. And then he's going to shake hands with a New York Democrat. I mean, I know it's Trump, but on the conservative side, if you go into those rooms, half the conservatives are like, he's a Democrat. They don't like him because he's too much like the Democrats.
But
so
Will,
it makes sense that he shake hands.
But Will, Trump was a Democrat for 40 plus years.
That's my point.
Well, hold on. Let me finish. Let me finish real quick. I never met Robert Kennedy. I never met John Kennedy. Maybe Norm did. I have no idea. But let me tell you something. They wouldn't like what Trump does either. I can't see John Kennedy, from everything I've learned about him, would support somebody like Donald Trump. And I guarantee you Robert Kennedy wouldn't either. I'm sorry, dude. If you build your platform for years and decades as a Democrat, and just because they didn't do what you wanted them to do or you needed them to do, you switch teams. Listen, Will, hold on. Bro, hold on.
Okay.
I'm from Brooklyn. Loyalty is not a word; it's a lifestyle, bro. You pick a side, you stay with that side. That's it. You take your L's and you move on.
That doesn't sound right at all. That means you can't think beyond outside your party lines. That doesn't sound strategic. It doesn't even sound intelligent. That if you signed up for a deed when you're 6, all of a sudden you have to stick with that for the rest of your life. That makes no sense. And the fact that he's shaking hands with Trump, who is pretty much a Democrat, just tells you that the Overton window is moving more centrist. So if the Republicans are mad at Trump because he's too much like a Democrat, and the Democrats are mad at RFK because he's acting too much like a Republican, doesn't that mean we're just setting up a uniparty that seems dead center in the middle between the two?
I'll tell you what, and I said it earlier, Will, and I say it respectfully, when you're the heir to a political dynasty, I'm sorry, you lose that right. You just do. You can't be a candidate and vote for Trump.
How is that
That's my
logical, Jay? How does that make any
Listen,
sense?
it's in my crazy head, it makes sense. Norm, what do you think, Norman?
Didn't you just say the Bushes came out and said they're supporting Kamala?
I
said,
understand.
you want,
I understand your position because we put the Kennedys on a pedestal, even with their flaws. And of course, part of that is because they were murdered. So they're frozen in that Camelot stance, you know, that there were these perfect guys that we looked up to, and then they were murdered. But I don't know what to say now. We're in a kind of a transitional moment now, and what we used to think Democrat meant, you know, as Bobby Kennedy said in that speech, I'm sure you heard that speech, right? Jay?
yes.
Yeah, he says he's against censorship. He feels like he's being censored. I'm afraid that he may be right. You know, speaking as a professional journalist, what I see happening in journalism right now is chilling me to my bone. I mean, his positions are crazy, so maybe what he's saying is that people didn't give me a platform because I am crazy. That may be true. I'm only talking about his position on vaccinations. I don't know if anything else. Everything else seems to make sense. And then when he talks about chronic disease and vaccination, I think, okay, he's going off now into man from Mars stuff. That it just sounds like conspiracy theory craziness. So,
But no, let me ask you this, Norman. Let me ask you this, Norman. So today, Tulsi Gabbard came out. I think it was today, maybe been yesterday, and she threw her 100% support behind Donald Trump. This is the same woman who literally just a couple years ago was calling him the Antichrist. You know, and she's a Democrat. You have no issue with that?
no, I don't have an issue with it. I think we need to listen to these people. They're telling us this for a reason. I think they're telling us that our party is deeply corrupted and is going down the wrong path. When you hear, is it true? I mean, I just looked at the headline and I read a couple lines that Kamala is advocating a dramatic change to the Supreme Court. I mean, they want to transform the country
Yeah.
in their image.
Yeah, they want to appoint Supreme Court justices every 2 years, which would expand the Supreme Court. The current justices would stay in place for 18 years, but this would pack the court.
This is not a unique idea to her. This has gone on since FDR, Woodrow Wilson. I can go back to Teddy Roosevelt.
Unique or not, it's a fundamental change to the fabric of the country, and I deeply mistrust it. It's a naked power grab.
It's
and I think
it's not unique.
I never said it was unique. Nothing unique is not the problem. The problem is that it's a power grab. It's destructive and corrupt. That's the problem.
Well, let me ask the question, or maybe you can answer, or David, or Pardon, or Shauna. Shauna's an attorney. Maybe she can answer this. But is it true, and I'm trying to get clarity on this, that whoever is the president can sign an executive order and make it happen just like that? Just
No.
I signed a piece of it. No?
No, because there's something called Marbury v. Madison. And Marbury v. Madison decided early on in the nation's history that the Supreme Court was the ultimate arbiter of what's constitutional and what isn't. So if the president made an executive order that was unconstitutional, they would be able to rule it unconstitutional, unacceptable. These guys aren't taking issue with the actual decisions that the Supreme Court has made. They just want a different judicial philosophy. They want their judicial philosophy.
I think it's gone from 3 to 5 to 7 to 9. This is nothing.
What has?
The Supreme Court, I think it started out in 3 under George Washington. It's gone
Okay.
from 3 to
I'm not
5,
sure.
7
Yeah.
to. This is
I'm
nothing.
not sure why that has anything to do with anything.
I'm telling you, it's changed. Things change.
Yeah, it changed 240 years ago. Great. Now they're trying to change it in a way that's a blatant power
That's
grab.
not correct. That's not correct.
Oh, it's not? Oh,
Gone
it's
from
not correct.
3 to 5 to 7 to 9 over a period. I think it was 7 in World War One. This is nothing new, guys. I mean,
And how long ago was World War One? Maybe, I don't know. How long ago was World War One?
100 years ago.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, but that's if you look.
So now we're on the same. Now we're back on the same page again.
If you look historically, this is nothing new. Now I get it; it's radical.
No, actually, the problem is not whether it's new
I
or
looked it
not.
up for us, Norm.
problem
Norm, I
is
looked it up for us.
I wasn't doing. No, he's trying to derail the conversation. It has nothing to do with the fact that this was 200 years ago.
Is it
What it has to do with is that this administration is finding the decisions of the Supreme Court unacceptable. So they want to change the Supreme Court, not to make it more fair, not to make it more just, but because they don't like it. And that is corruption. That is dangerous as hell.
First time in history this has happened.
It's irrelevant whether it's the first time or the second. It's irrelevant. It's been this way for 100 years for a reason. That's like saying it's not the first time that we changed from cars to horses. Yeah, we don't have horses anymore.
So if it's something you disagree with, it's radical? Is that what it is? If it's something you don't...
I didn't say any of that. I said it's a blatant power grab. That's what I said.
All right, guys, everybody hold on. Everybody hold on for a second.
I'm asking your question. Is it...
No, Roger, I get it. I promise to give you a second, but let me just say hello to Wesley real quick. What's up?
Good to see Jake. Glad y'all are having these rooms still. What a crazy, crazy America we're in. So I did look it up just to stay on track. I agree 100% with El Normo on this. The reason they want to stack the court or pack the court, whatever they call it, with 1,000 people if they can, it is a power grab. And they think that they'll... I mean, look at how the Electoral College works. And you'll kind of start, if your brain works a little bit like mine, if you look how the Electoral College works, you'll understand why they want to do the Supreme Court this way. One second, buddy. In 1869, the Judiciary Act fixed the number of justices at 9. And there hasn't been any changes since 1869. The reason they want to change it is because, well, y'all know why. El Normo just explained it to us.
Well, let me jump in here real quick before anybody comes off mic. So, I don't see what Donald Trump did as stacking the Supreme Court. Ruth Bader Ginsburg should have retired and not held on. And then you could have had Obama pick somebody. But she held on. And he did his job. There were 2 openings, or was it 3? Whatever it was, he filled them. So, I don't think he stacked the court. But, listen, I get what Roger's saying. Roger's saying this is nothing new. This has been going on in America for hundreds of years. One party tries to stack the court. I think the problem with the Supreme Court is there's no mechanisms in place to check the Supreme Court. Now, Sean he's a lawyer. She could speak on this. That's just my opinion.
I want to jump in real quick. Brian talked about this one day, and he was actually okay with packing the court as long as it was done like over a period of time. The way she's talking about, he was saying how all of them would preside over cases, how they would swap in and out. You had like senior judges. I forgot how he described it, but he didn't see it as something nefarious or evil. He was actually okay with it.
Well, let me jump in here real quick. So, Dottie, me personally, I think RFK Jr. is out of his mind. I think he's crazy. I don't know anything about endangering children. I don't know where that came from. But my advice is don't argue with Victoria because she's never going to change her mind. So, Rod, do you want to jump in here? Nope. Okay.
No, I'm okay, Jay. You surmised pretty well.
Thank you. I pardon well, guys.
Yeah, Raj, if it was Trump saying he wanted to set the Supreme Court thing up every 2 years, do you think Democrats would be all for it?
I think it's radical.
No matter who proposes it.
Bro, if Donald Trump did this, it's next level radical, and he's trying to take over the country, he's trying to be the king, all this other nonsense. So, my thing is, listen, I'm not a Trump supporter, I'm not a Biden or Harris supporter. I try to stay right in the middle, but We survived 4 years of Trump. He didn't take over the country. Even if he tried, it didn't happen. So all this Trump acting that he wants to do this, he wants to be the king. It's all bullshit.
Didn't he try January 6th a little bit?
And Pence's story, who doesn't support him right now?
Say that one more time, David.
And asking Pence to ratify an election that he couldn't constitutionally do? And Pence does not support him right now?
To not ratify the election.
Sorry, I said it backwards.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I mean, I guess he could have done it. It was a stupid idea. It was a wrong idea. I mean, it would have been the wrong thing to do. Yeah.
Well, Pence was asked 6 months ahead of time and did a lot of research. He didn't just decide that day.
I didn't know he was asked 6 months ahead of time.
Of course he was. Trump was working on him for a long time.
Why do you say of course he was?
Well, it's well known.
It's not well known because I didn't know it.
Didn't they change the
Didn't they have easy? I mean, Pence talked about having to have judicial scholars educate him and see what was possible. Mm-hmm. And he went to people that knew more than him, and they said no.
I get it.
Well, I want to ask Sean.
Why would they have asked him 6 months in advance whether he could choose to not certify the election?
They wanted to know how he felt about it. They didn't want to know about it.
Why were they even contemplating that?
Because they were worried about the election being stolen. Well, hold on one second, John. They were worried about the election being stolen. Hold on one second, because I want to ask Shauna a question. She's an attorney, so he knows more than me. Shauna, what happened on January 6th? You think that was illegal?
There's 4 points to what happened on January 6th. The Supreme Court granted him immunity on 2 and sent 2 back down to the D.C. Circuit Court, and she has to determine whether or not those were legal. One of them was whether his conversation with Pence was as vice president or his conversation with Pence was as the, what's the word? Something of the Senate or of the Congress.
President of the Senate is the vice president's position.
Right, but no, he's so when Trump talked to Pence, was he talking to him as his vice president or was he talking to him as the president of the Senate? That is in the Supreme Court ruling, and that is what sorry, let me turn the news off again. Come on up. That is what the district court judge has to determine, and the briefs have been turned in on that. So it's going to depend on what she says. I mean, it is going to go back up again. It's going to end up in the Supreme Court again because, Trump is going to file an appeal. Or Jack Smith will file an appeal, just like, I don't know if any of you know, but today Jack Smith officially filed an appeal in Florida, against Eileen Cannon with the 11th Circuit. I've read, I'd say, an eighth of it until I just wasn't feeling well enough. So what more do you want from me with regard to January 6th? I mean, I think what happened January 6th is an absolute disgrace, personally. Whether it was Trump or anybody else.
Do you think he should be held liable for it?
Well, they try.
Well, they tried, but the parts of it, yes, definitely. I think what he did to Pence was as the president of the Senate, not as the vice president. And if that is the case, then that was not within his official duties, and he should be held liable for that.
What do you say we know? Say Shauna knows for sure that they cheated in the election. What's the course of action from that point? Well, so a lot of people that showed up to January. Whoever.
Yeah, they thought the election was
stolen. If you know the United States presidential election was wrong, cheated, whatever you want to call it.
When?
What steps do we have? We don't have any.
No, that's not true. So let me get this, you guys. No, El Normo and let me answer this, okay? Here's your perfect, and it was Wesley, I believe, that was asking this question. Al Gore and Bush. You take it to the courts. You don't go around and get tape recorded asking people to find extra votes or to change votes or to do what he did in Nevada where they've all been arrested.
He didn't ask them to change votes. And when you say find, it sounds like he was trying to find something that wasn't there. He thought the votes were there. That's in the phone conversation. thought that the votes had not been counted.
Wait a second, wait a second.
And yes, he
Wait a
did
second, wait a
100%
second.
ask them to change votes.
Who?
Hold on,
Yeah,
Council,
put it
hold on one
transfer.
second. No, hold on one second. Let me just say this, and then you can have the mic for as long as you like. All the cases against Donald Trump, and I don't care what anybody says, is self-inflicted. Banging porn stars while you're married. I thought that case was fugazi, but he was found guilty. The D.C. case, he got on that podium and said, "I will meet you down there," and then he went back to the White House, had McDonald's with a Diet Coke, and put his feet up while the Congress was on fire, right? Self-inflicted. You don't tell a mob, "I'll meet you down there," and just walk away. The Georgia case, he got on the phone and said, "Find me whatever, 12,000 votes." Why is he on the phone? Why doesn't he have one of his underlings do it? Why does he have to get on the phone? The Florida case, bro, all he had to do was hand back the documents. And I don't want to hear Biden did the same thing. You know what? Biden also handed back the documents when he was requesting.
And they gave
So let's
Trump
not be
Biden
happy.
also handed back,
15
don't
months to
forget
do
though
it.
that Biden also handed back the documents when he wasn't requested, when they were found the first time before, at the, was University of Pennsylvania, where he had a teaching office or something. As soon as those were found, those were turned in.
Yeah, but he wasn't
7 years
president when he
later,
took them
why-
either, though.
Why did that's correct. He wasn't. Why does he get to do that? It's against the law. There's no reason why he was able to keep those documents. Why wasn't he charged? The special prosecutors, they didn't
Because he
charge him.
turned everything in.
No,
Trump
that's
was-
not
So-
why. That doesn't.
so if you
steal
break the
something
law
you
and
give
turn
it back,
yourself
that doesn't
in.
mean you didn't steal it.
But he
Yeah.
didn't steal it. That's the thing. We don't know how he got it because it was
Someone-
so fucking
I wouldn't
long
say
ago.
he-
Someone
But when
brought it to
Donald
his-
said
Trump,
he had them illegally.
yeah, but
Hold on,
how do you
hold on,
justify that when
hold on.
the
Shauna,
document?
hold on. Shauna, hold on one second. I'm going to give you the mic right now. But everybody mute up, please. Guys, we have a one mic policy. When the lady's speaking, let her speak, and then you can come back. Trust me, be strong. She'll stand on her square. Yeah, Sean.
When you are requested to return documents, not once, not twice, but 3 times, and then you get a search warrant and you raid the house, and there's still documents to be found after the fact that he still won't turn in. That is the difference between the 2, 3, 4 situations. Because don't forget, other people besides Biden and Trump had documents that should not have been in their possession.
So
But
Shauna,
they all returned them when asked. Why
Shauna,
is Trump
didn't-
special? And he didn't return them when he wasn't, let me finish, Jay, when he wasn't in office any longer. He was a private citizen at that point.
He's a former president. Makes a big difference.
hold on,
the crime is
no, let me just say this real quick. From what I believe, from what I read, and it could be wrong because you know the media, but I read that he had actually shown some of those documents to a billionaire from Australia.
That's right.
That is correct.
He also got 3 other people implicated in his scheme who had to move those documents around.
All of this is irrelevant. You're not allowed to have the documents. The crime is possession, not refusing to turn them back in.
I'm surprised at your feelings on this, Norm.
I don't have
15
feelings.
months.
I'm telling you the law. This is not my feeling.
I'm telling you what he did. He had 15 months to return it. He was given a year and 3 months.
And he
Everybody else
disputed the
gets much
request.
less time. Much less time. He was
disputed-
given
You're
every
missing the
grade.
point. You're missing the point. He disputed the request. He had the right to dispute the request. This is the National Archives Bureau. This is
No,
not,
it
you know,
isn't, sir. It's a special office in the presidential that keeps track of every paper, and they knew every paper he had.
That's wrong.
Yeah.
All right,
That's your
hold
point.
on, Norm, because Samoa's been patiently waiting. Let me get Samoa in the conversation. Samoa, long time no speak, man. How you doing?
Long time no speak, brother. I'm doing all right. Hope you're doing well, bro.
Doing fantastic. The mic is yours.
No, I think Eleanor was on a good line here. I think that when people think that things are bad, and then you actually look at the details of the case, you have a right to fight whatever request is made. People think that it's a bad thing. There's a
So
reason why the case is-
Samoa, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. You're not even mute up, man. We're having dialogue. What do you think about January 6th? Should he be held liable for January 6th?
No. As far as criminally, no. Absolutely not. I think that when you look at the protocol, I think that it's just come out where the deposition was made, where somebody on the Secret Service detail spoke to the effect of the 10,000 National Guardsmen from Trump was thrown out there, and Bowser was responsible for requesting whatever she needed. So I think that if people start looking at the actual statements that are being made, they'll see where the breakdown is. People say because Trump brought people there, that he should be liable for what people do. And I think there's a reason why the DOJ didn't bring a case.
But Samo, let me ask you this. I thought they brought the case in Washington, D.C., but let me ask you this. So you don't feel he's liable for getting on that podium and saying, I'll meet you down there. And then when they break into Congress, and I hear this where people say, oh, they open the door for people. Well, listen, if I'm standing there and there's a mob of 10,000 people come towards me, I'm opening the door too, bro. No bullshit, no cap.
Yeah, but let's focus on the law. What crime would you say he could be charged with for saying, go down and fight, and later do so legally and peacefully? What would you charge him?
Right?
Say again?
Yeah, peaceful and patriotically, right?
Yeah.
Okay, he inspired that insurrection, and that's exactly what it was.
So what
charge?
No, that's just
listen, hold on. Maybe it's just me, Samo, maybe because I'm a crazy Brooklynite. I'm charging his ass with treason. He tried to steal that election. That's just my opinion.
Right. And I think that if you look at what Jack Smith did, they only could give what they could of what they believe that they could actually prosecute him with. The obstruction's gone, and in that case, they're only running on I think it's conspiracy for fraud or something like that, or fraud on whatever. And now that the immunity opinion's brought forth, that's probably going to die too. So.
And what do you think about what do you think about the Georgia case, where if that prosecutor would have just shown some decorum, that case would probably be the one who would have taken him down.
No, well, that's dying too, right? Like the gentleman who just brought up the phone call. Like that charge was dismissed about 4 or 5 months ago. So when people bring up the phone call about the Secretary of State, like that's no longer a charge now. You've seen Sadow arguing today on dismissing the charges again, or dismissing her and her office because of the church, or because of the speech that she made at the church, and he makes a convincing argument. So people shouldn't be and this is why people should really look at both sides, so then you're not shocked when a verdict is reached or a decision from the bench is reached. You're not caught off guard. But if you just seen the motions that were put in today, this thing might just get blown up before December.
Jay, I have a question for you, sir. If he wins or loses the election, will the Georgia case continue? Because it's a state charge, not a federal.
Yes,
It might,
but
it might die.
it should continue legally, but it will probably die because he's the president, so he can postpone it as one of his official duties, and then it would resume.
If he loses,
I
I think the Supreme Court basically said all this stuff is very dubious.
Personal.
And I think they are dubious. This is lawfare. This is an attempt to jail your leading political opponent. This has been banana republic stuff. This is BS.
Well, what about
These are BS cases.
What about the other 18 people?
Which 18 people are those?
Are they dubious too?
Which 18 people are you talking about?
No, he's talking about the indictment in Georgia.
Giuliani et al.
You mean the one where
the
one where 8 of them have already pled guilty?
Trump didn't plead guilty. I don't understand why if somebody pleads guilty, you think that means that the other person is
That's
guilty.
not what
That
I
doesn't even make sense.
No, I
It was
don't
one of
think
the
you're
smart lawyers
following
that
us,
jumped out the way.
Norm. I don't think you're
I don't think you're following
us.
the law.
No, of course I'm following the law.
No,
I don't have a political stone.
Hold on,
I'm a lawyer of 30 years, remember?
No, she's an attorney.
You're not getting it. Then why aren't you getting it? That if one person pleads guilty, that doesn't make the other person guilty.
They're all
That's a nonsense.
co-defendants. You keep saying that the
They're not
case is
charged
dead.
with the same thing.
Yes, they're all charged under the same complaint. They don't each have individual complaints.
Absolutely, they do.
And they have all,
Absolutely.
there's some of them are charged with the same thing, some of them were charged with different things, but he is charged with, 8 of them have pled guilty. That means the case is still going on.
No, guilty
I don't
of what?
understand why you can't understand that.
What is it that you think I don't understand?
Everybody hold on. Everybody hold on. Simone, I need you to mute up because I get feedback.
Oh, sorry about that, bro.
Please. No worries, man. You're fine.
Nice,
So,
nice
Norm,
to hear you.
I'm glad you're here. Hang out for a while. Norm, the question I have for you and for anybody else, but Norm, directly at you specifically. Do you believe in the American judicial system? Yes or no?
Of course.
Okay. So when he's found guilty on 34 felonies, you're going to find a reason why he shouldn't be.
He was not found guilty on 34 felonies. That's a bullshit case if I ever heard one.
But you just said you believe in it. You just said you believe in the judicial system.
Of course I do.
See, but that's not how hypocrisy continues. The title of the room.
Here, let's test it out. What felony was he found guilty of?
New York statute 75.
Wait. What felony was he guilty of? Let's hear it.
I just answered it.
I'm
New
listening.
York statute 75.
You're breaking up. You're breaking up.
Falsifying
I was asking
business
Jay.
records.
Jay?
The short
Jay,
answer
what-
is falsifying business records. What?
Okay,
Old-
that's a misdemeanor. That's not
No.
34 felonies.
Not the way the
That's a
law is
misdemeanor.
drawn up, Norman.
Norm, not the way the law was drawn up
Oh,
because
really?
of,
Oh, really? What
Yeah,
law
normal,
is
like El Normal.
go read the fucking penal code. You're in New York, for God's sake.
No,
I
El
have
Normo's
read the
right
penal
here.
code. This is a bullshit theory that will not stand up for 10 seconds on appeal.
Hold on, time out.
Completely spurious.
Hold on, Samoa. Hold on, Norm. Everybody mute up. Samoa, I need you to stay muted. You have one mic policy, please. Norm, I love you, man. You're my brother. You're my friend in real life. But you are so off base here, bro. You just said, and that's why I'll be honest, I set you up, because I knew what your answer was going to be. Do you believe in the American judicial system? And you immediately said yes.
He does.
Hold on, Raj. Hold on. But then when I asked you about Trump's 34 conviction, you're like, it's bullshit. It doesn't matter. It's going to be overturned. He was convicted.
100%.
Hold on, Norm.
100%.
Hold on. Let me finish. And don't even get me started on the civil case he had with E. Jean Carroll. He was found liable of sexual abuse. Okay? So,
And then
and I know you're not
more
on
bullshit.
top of it.
More bullshit. 100% bullshit. I know the woman. She's been bragging about having sex with Trump in Bergdorf Goodman's dressing room for as long as I know her. That's more than 20 years. I have text messages from her.
Good for you.
Nonsense.
But
Well,
so what
what complete
he's saying,
nonsense.
no. So what he's saying, I want everybody to be really clear on this, is that a jury of Donald Trump's peers, 7 of which were Republicans, came to a bullshit, to use his word, verdict on the 34 felony counts.
There were not
So
34 felony counts, number one.
This
It
is
wasn't
what
a
the
felony.
jury
I'm gonna
of
answer you.
his peers
I'm gonna answer
found.
you. I'm going to answer you.
No, I
will tell you
didn't finish. I didn't
But
finish.
no, 2 of them were lawyers. 2 of them were lawyers on that jury.
I will answer. Okay, you finish.
But
your
I
question.
didn't finish, nor did I ask a question. I want everybody to hear loud and
said
clear
you're
that
telling
you're
me,
saying
and I'm
a
saying, no,
jury
I'm
of
not
his
telling you
peers
that.
did
I'm
not.
not.
You're saying a jury of his peers looked at the evidence and decided that it didn't rise to a felony. That's what
Total
you're
bullshit.
saying.
No,
You're
absolute
also.
100%.
He said it wouldn't hold up to an
100% bullshit.
appeal. He said it wouldn't hold up to appeal, which is
No,
just as
the
part of
first part is not what he said. That's
No,
all
he said
said
it
at the
wouldn't
beginning.
hold up to an appeal, which is part of our justice
Hold
system.
on, Will. He said it was bullshit. It's a bullshit
100%
case.
bullshit. And will
Well, let
not
him
stand
speak.
up
No,
on the
hold on,
record.
Norm. Norm, I'm going to give you the mic to you. Nobody interrupt Norm. Norm, like I said, I love you, bro, but the hypocrisy shining through.
12-0.
Hey, Norm, can tell them why it's not a felony, brother.
12-0 in the E. Jean Carroll case.
He's on the phone. Wait, he's on the phone.
All right.
We're going to give him a
He's
chance.
on the
So-
phone, and then
so I'll just
you've got the
Okay.
unanimous verdict on the original E. Jean Carroll civil case for sexual assault. You then got the judge on the defamation case because that woman that he's taken under his wing and made her famous from New Jersey flubbed and forgot to check the box for jury trial. So you've got him owing that money. That
That's
one's
right.
on appeal. And then you've got this case, Judge Mershon, who, by the way, on September 16th, y'all better be paying attention to see what he does with this verdict and whether or not he throws it out completely based on the Supreme Court, whether he throws out some of the charges, whether he throws out none of the charges, and then you've got a sentencing date. So Trump is going to be appealing lots of things. Anytime he's found guilty, he's going to appeal. He's probably going to appeal if the 11th Circuit in Florida, on the Florida case, says that Jack Smith is right based on all of the cases he cited. Trump's going to appeal that to the full Court of Appeal. Like, that's Trump's MO. Delay.
Wouldn't
At some
she?
point,
So everybody hold on. Everybody hold on.
I'm not done.
But Sean, you gotta land your plane because I got a big stage. So please land
Okay,
your-
so my last point is, at some point, when he's elected, his election or his term is going to come to an end, and he's going to have to face the music. You cannot be taking these cases away if they happened when you weren't president of the U.S.
Thank you, Sean. Hold on 1 second, Norm, because I'm going to give you the mic back to you because you had a phone call. But listen, man, it just boggles my mind how not just, I mean, this is not at you, Norm. It's just that most people. Oh, it was a bullshit case. I have a law plus. If that case was me, Norm, Wesley, Hillary, we're going to the Hooskow, bro. Whether it's a bullshit felony or not, bro.
Would have been indicted for that. There was no felony there. Zero. There was no felony.
All
What
right,
they
so-
did was they took a misdemeanor, which is bad entry of a business expense, which, by the way, is legitimate. He paid for an NDA. It's unbelievable nonsense. And then the statute of limitations has expired. They then attempted, in a bizarre, ridiculous legal theory, to elevate it to a felony. What's the felony? Nobody knows. Why? Because the prosecutor never specified the felony. Was it tax evasion? Was it an illegal campaign contribution? Nobody's charged with a felony for an illegal campaign contribution.
New York statute 75
Okay, I haven't really finished, so do me a favor, Gus.
Norm,
Let's abide by the one mic policy. I don't know if you could tell I was still speaking, so I'm going to ask you to be quiet until I'm done. Under no circumstance can you elevate 2 misdemeanors, not 34, to a felony beyond the statute of limitations for an unspecified
Wait, Norman, hold on.
Yes.
So you're telling me
Yes.
the truth that, first off, I'm going to say what I'm going to ask you a question, then I want to welcome Brent to the stage because he's going to unpack this as well. But you're telling me the 12 jurors, 2 of them were attorneys, that they weren't smart attorneys? They didn't understand the law that voted for this conviction?
I am telling you that this will 100% be overturned on appeal. It is a nonsense charge. It was a get Trump charge, and it'll be thrown on the garbage heap where it belongs. 100%. There's zero question of this. Keep this in mind. Neither the prosecutor nor the judge ever specified what the felony was. So you're sitting here saying 34 felonies? Neither you, nor me, nor anybody else can tell me what the felony is.
No, I can't. Raj, hold on a second.
A minute. Hey, I didn't for his question.
I'm going to get you in your question in a second, bro. And I can't tell you the felony. But what I can tell you is, when that verdict was read, they read 34 felony counts, guilty, 34 times. That's what I can tell you, Norm. Raj, then I want to welcome Brent to the stage.
New York statute 75-10, falsification of business records. It's been charged over 200.
They're not
all
felonies.
250 times. They've been all charged.
They're misdemeanors.
Norm, you're interrupting me now, my man.
Well, that's because you're wrong.
Chill, Norm. Chill. I answered your question. You asked.
No, you answered it incorrectly.
No, because
now answer this question. Are those misdemeanors or
cut him
felonies?
off.
Wait a second, Norm, hold on a second.
God almighty, that guy's not.
Raj, hold on. How is he wrong, though? How is he wrong? If he's reading you the statute, hold on.
The code.
Hold on.
Was he charged with a felony? Tell me the felony.
75.1. Look it up, Norm.
What is the felony? Don't read the number. No, wait. Let's get this to the end. What's that felony? Let's read it out to the whole room, please.
Falsification of business records.
It's not a felony.
Yes, it is.
It's not a felony. You're wrong. It's a misdemeanor. He elevated it to a felony.
Hold on.
You're
Hold on a second, guys. I'm going to ask Brent because guess what? This is Brent's lane. Brent, how you doing, my friend? Brent, are you there?
I'm good. I came into a juicy moment, I guess.
Yeah, man. It's like, I'm going to give you a little context. And please, nobody unmute. Everybody's going to get a chance to speak. Both Brian, Samoa get to speak. Lady will get to speak. But Right now, I want to talk to Brent. So, Brent, I said to Norm, you believe in the American judicial system? He didn't hesitate. He said yes. So I said to him, well, if that's the case, how come when a jury of Donald Trump's peers find him guilty, that doesn't apply? So that's how this whole thing started.
It's a total miscarriage of justice. It's to get Trump. It's an attempt to eliminate him, to eliminate the leader of your opposition party.
Right. No, hold on a
Extremely
second.
corrupt. Banana Republic nonsense.
Well, let's see what Brent has to say. Brent, what do you think?
So one of the things that I find really funny, and this is the problem with having lay people read penal codes, is that you can be right and you can be wrong at the same time. So New York Penal Code 175.05 and New York Penal Code 175.10 have to do with falsifying business records. 175.05 is a Class A misdemeanor. 175.10 is a Class E felony. So when you have someone saying, oh, he's been charged with falsifying business records, the problem comes into, okay, was he charged under Penal Code 175.05 or was he charged under Penal Code 175.10? In order for it to be a Class E felony, you need a secondary criminal count. So you need another criminal action that was done in connection with falsifying the business records. Did you illegally collude? Did you destroy evidence? Did you lie to a police officer? Did you perjure yourself? You need a secondary criminal act to be attached in order for it to be 175.10 and be charged as a Class E felony. The unique thing in New York is that it doesn't necessarily require that criminal act be charged. So you have to have been accused of committing it, but they don't have to charge you with it. So let's say, I know you falsified business records. We can prove that. I think you destroyed evidence. I can assert in the court that with reasonable cause, we believe that you destroyed the evidence. I can't prove you destroyed the evidence, but I can assert it to the judge and use it as justification to prop it into a Class E felony and use 175.10. The thing that people are getting frustrated and hung up on, which is going to be dealt with in appeal, is that there doesn't appear to have been a clear enumeration or explanation of what the underlying secondary criminal acts. It seems like they basically told the judge there is one. They never explained why there was one, and the judge allowed that to move forward. Now, under judicial discretion, the judge is allowed to, but that doesn't mean upon appellate review, they're not going to question that and say, okay, what allowed you to prop this up? Because essentially, and I've said this before, if this was anyone but Donald Trump, those 34 counts would have been rolled into one misdemeanor, maybe a felony with a misdemeanor attachment, pled out on a Thursday, and it wouldn't have even gotten on the news.
Well, let me ask you a question, Brandon. No, hold on. No, please stop with the sound effect. It's not an arcade.
Jay, 1 second.
Say,
Hey, Brent, thank you for being here and backing me up. I appreciate you, as always.
well, Brent, I have a question for you, and then I want to get other speakers involved. I believe it's going to get overturned, right? I'm sure you're along the same lines. If it gets overturned, can they prosecute him again?
Yeah, so double jeopardy doesn't attach in this particular situation. So if once you have a verdict that comes down and it's a guilty verdict, now it's being appealed, and it's being appealed on reversible error, and basically saying, hey, this should not have been charged, this should not have been allowed, the judge erred in this. Generally what will happen is if the appellate court looks at it that way, they will say, okay, we're going to vacate this case, but grant leave to refile, and basically say, hey, yes, the judge erred on this, but this was a judicial error in allowing this to happen. Therefore, we are not going to count this as something where double jeopardy would attach. We are simply going to do the equivalent of granting a mistrial. We're going to vacate the trial results, set aside the jury verdict, and we're going to grant leave to refile. Then it becomes the prosecutor's office's job and determination to say, hey, can we do this again? They will have to go to a grand jury again. They will have to start the process again. They will have to seat a jury again. You basically start all over. And what it is it's saying, hey, this judge erred and ruled in a way that irreparably harmed the case and resulted in this flawed verdict. This should not have been done. The way that we fix this, the way that you rectify it, is to vacate the entire case and grant leave to refile. So it doesn't mean that Trump is off the hook. It doesn't mean that they can't charge him again. Alvin Bragg can look at it and say, hey, I'm going to impanel another grand jury, and we're going to go after him again. He will just have to be in front of, most likely, a different judge, and have to justify what they charge him with. Now, they also don't have to charge him the same way. Let's say Alvin Bragg looks at this and goes, okay, I can't do 34 counts. I can't do these felony counts. I want to charge you with misdemeanors, or I want to charge you with a lesser amount of these. He can change his strategy, but what most likely happens if it's overturned is that they simply vacate the ruling, set aside the jury verdict, and grant leave to refile.
But it's my opinion that it's going to get overturned. I have no doubt about that. If he loses, Bragg goes after him. If he wins, the case goes away. This is my opinion. But Norm, before you speak, I want to wish Dr. Responsible happy anniversary. He's been on this app for 80 years. So, Ricky, happy anniversary. Norm, the mic is yours.
Were you calling on me, Jay? I'm like juggling things here.
Yes, Norm, you wanted to talk?
With my kid, I'm in the resort with.
Happy anniversary, Dr. Ricky.
The statute of limitations on the misdemeanor has lapsed. Okay, and remember what the action was. He signed an NDA with a what do you call her, a body dancer, a stripper, because she threatened him to expose their affair. He blackmailed him. And he's being charged with what people so blithely, without examination, call 34 felonies. It's one of the most absurd cases I've ever heard in my life. It was obviously blatantly designed to incapacitate him in his run for president, and it didn't work. In fact, it strengthened the support. It was an example, perhaps, of the worst that the Democratic Party has to offer. And I think they're out of control. They're just going to go from one thing to the other. By the way, you may not have heard this. Jamie Raskin said that if Trump wins and there's a majority, and in the Senate, of Democrats, they will charge him under the 14th Amendment and invalidate his win and accuse him of insurrection. He said that.
No, let me jump in here real quick. So I want to address
they will do anything to keep Donald Trump from taking office. And it's undemocratic. It's absurd.
They all voted him out.
Hold on, Roger. Hold on a second, bro, because I want to address something in the chat. Matt Cool, I'm going to tell you why I think it's important that we have this conversation. Because from what I've seen, from the very little that she's put out there, she's going to go after him as a criminal, right? She's going to put this up on the front porch and have everybody take a look at it. So I think these conversations are very important. But let me go to Dr. Responsible. Happy anniversary, Dr. Responsible.
Thank you so much. I don't even know what year it is. I think it's year number 3, perhaps. So good conversation, although it's frustrating, right? Because at this point, I'm going to do something I rarely do, which is I will defer to the experts on the legalities and how it can be charged again, the appeal, etc. But this is fucking serious, and it's not the 32 counts of felony that should have been 2 counts misdemeanor, or whatever it was that Brent said, which made sense to me. When we go down to this level of literally persecuting and prosecuting our political enemies, whether it was Republicans doing it to Democrats or Democrats doing it to Republicans, it crosses a line that just can't be put back in the bottle. You cannot stop this now.
Ricky, let me ask you a question. Man. And I'm saying this respectfully because, we have good dialogue. Do you believe And it's a polarizing question, people. Do you believe that the Democrats were behind his assassination attempt?
No, I don't. Not necessarily. I think it's more likely the Republicans are after his assassination attempt or members of the administrative state. Or maybe it's just this one guy. But no, I don't put that particularly on Democrats.
Thank you, Ricky. The crickets a little loud in the back. We're in Brooklyn already. You got crickets, bro.
I'm not. I'm out in Long Island.
Small move.
All right. Let me just say this one more thing. It's fun to talk about, and it's very polarizing. But like Norm said, maybe the counts are there. Maybe they called it out by the jury. But we spent close to 300 years not prosecuting political opponents, and I think anyone who's being honest, even if they say this is just, right? Anyone who's being honest realizes that, like Brent said, if this was not Donald Trump, this would have been in and out of the court system, even if it was even charged, with little to no fanfare, and that's a big freaking deal to charge your political opponent, persecute and prosecute with all these cases, but this one in particular, change the law, go against the statute of limitations. Probably that's all legal. Apparently it is. But to do that, it's like a big negative for the United States. Not for Donald Trump, not for the Republicans. It's a gigantic negative for the United States as a whole. And how are we ever supposed to come together and get unity and not be divisive?
So wait, Ricky, hold on, Brian, hold on. Ricky, let me ask you this, because that cricket's driving me crazy, bro. But I'm going to ask you a question, then I want to go to Madison, then Brian. So you're saying that presidents, because they're the president, they can have absolute immunity to do whatever they like. I'm just curious.
No, although I do think that the president should have immunity on things like, did we get into the Iraq war or not, and stuff like that. But no, I don't think they should just have immunity. The reason for the immunity is so that they're not scared to make decisions. But something like this is from over a decade ago, and it's just nonsense that we try to avoid, right? If he does go to get in trouble for it, or if it was a Democrat, he gets sentenced, he pleads out, etc., etc. It's not like he killed somebody, it's not like he raped somebody, not like he did anything like that, and it gets taken care of, and that's it. We try and avoid it with presidents.
But he was found liable for sexual abuse.
Yeah, but in a civil court where the burden is so much less.
Sexual assault, my apologies.
The burden is much less there, and that's why these cases get handpicked in his particular case.
What are people's cutoffs on these type of topics? I mean, if Trump abused 100 children and he only got sued civilly, would that impact your vote? I mean, where's your cutoff? This is the part I never understand. Is it criminal only? Where is your cutoff when somebody got found guilty civilly of rape, and people go, I don't care. It's not a big deal.
He was never found guilty civilly of rape, ever. Okay. You just don't know what you're saying.
He was found liable. Wait. He was found liable for sexual assault, like you want to say.
Yeah, but listen to what this person is saying before you jump in, because he actually has, I don't know who it was because I looked away, but he actually has some really good points. So let him finish before y'all jump in about.
I get amazed by people who just constantly blow off civil suits and go, but I ask you again, if Trump had raped 100 children and only was found guilty, liable in the civil court, would that not matter to you? I mean, where's your cutoff?
What does that mean? Where's the cutoff?
That we're all cult members and that we're
I don't know what that means.
We love Donald Trump's hair.
I don't know how
we have a bullshit test.
Everybody mute up. Brandon, then I want to go to Madison. Yeah, Brandon.
Yeah, so here's the thing, and this is going to offend certain people, right? Our civil court system is not as hefty and does not have the teeth and the due process protections of our criminal court system. And so if you present a finding from a civil court to me, I'm going to look at it as generally something worth wiping my ass with. Because I have decades of experience understanding that the reason you charge things civilly is because either the statute of limitations has run out to where you are not able to charge it criminally, which usually means you couldn't have charged it in the first place successfully, or it would have been done decades earlier, or you're going after this in the easier playing field. Because you can bring evidence forward in civil court that I would never let come before a court in criminal court or any other criminal judge. The admissibility standards are about 40% in a civil proceeding that they would be in a criminal proceeding. The barriers of bringing in prejudicial testimony and prejudicial evidentiary admissions are extremely low in civil court. So when you get a finding in a civil court, that's not enough for many of us who understand the difference between the two systems, because I can look at that and go, you wouldn't have even gotten in hearing. You wouldn't have even gotten past impaneling a grand jury if you did that in criminal court. But because you're in the lesser of the two systems, which broadly allows things to be admitted that frankly make no sense, because the threshold is so low that for me, you could have 100 negative findings in civil court. I might look at 3 of them as valid and 97 as worth wiping my ass with.
Oh, Brent, can I ask you a question? You don't have to even mute up, man. We're just having a conversation. And you're my friend, and I respect you. But
yeah,
here's the question. Did you watch her speech at the DNC?
I watched some of her speech. I didn't watch it end to end.
So my opinion is that she's going to go on the soapbox of, he's a criminal, I'm a prosecutor. Do you agree with that or no?
Oh, yeah. She's going to. That's the direction.
And so that's is why these conversations are important, and that's why I'm so happy you're here.
Yeah, I just, to double into it is that people are, and I get why people get frustrated at being dismissive at a successfully finished trial, but I really wish people understood the difference in the components that go in and the limitations that exist that are different between criminal proceedings and civil proceedings. Because you can get the finding you're looking for in civil court 95% of the time because of the way that it's framed. In the same way that you can get a grand jury to agree with moving forward 99.99999% of the time. Because you're in a better position to present evidence, the limitations are not there, there is no one cross-examining, there are no secondary restrictions, and the threshold for what can be admitted is exceptionally low.
Well, let me ask you this, Brent. The civil, you don't have to mute up. I'm sorry to interrupt. These questions come to mind. If I don't ask, I forget. Civil, is it the same civil standard in New York as it is in, let's say, California, Colorado, Texas, or it's different standards?
Yes. And Bren wipes his ass with my cases all the time.
So, yeah, generally speaking, yes, there are certain nuanced differences due to legislative prerogative. Certain laws that exist in New York State don't exist in California. There's certain restrictions that exist, but 99% of the process is the same no matter what state you're in.
Thank you, Counselor. Appreciate it. Mike, you gotta hold on. We got a queue. I'm gonna get you in, I promise, but I want to go to Madison. Madison, you there?
Oh, yeah, Jay, how you doing? I'm just sitting here working.
You're here. I'm doing something right. So what do you think about the conversation? Do you agree with everything
Oh,
that's being said?
I find it interesting, and I find the chat interesting. I don't have to go into detail about who Trump is. We all know. He's a two-bit trashy developer who developed, real estate in the outlying areas of New York. He always wanted to be accepted. He always wanted to be a gangster, and the Republicans were embarrassed by his ass when he first came about in terms of him wanting to run, and they just knew he would lose. And he didn't, so they were stuck with him. So now they've become sycophants right under his thumb. And, when people talk about Kamala Harris, it's just ridiculous to me. She's got twice as much experience in her thumb.
Building. David, we're not doing that anymore, David. Everybody, hold on. Everybody, hold on. Shona, you gotta hold on, please.
I will. It won't be long. Yeah, she's got twice as much experience in her thumb than the entire ticket, and I'm not even going to talk about J.D. Vance. And if you're not a Democrat, don't even worry about the nomination. What I find amazing is that, she was nominated. It was a ticket. It was Biden-Harris. Those people voted for her. And she was the vice president, which means if something happened to Biden, she would have been your president and she would have been voted for. But nobody had these concerns when George Walker Bush was the vice president and there was no primary when he was Reagan's VP. It wasn't a problem then. So all of these arguments is so transparent. I mean, we had a C student for president. We had a fucking vice president who couldn't even spell potato. So miss me with the DEI because I've worked with so many mediocre white men and women I can't even count. So the question is to me, how did they ever get in? So, I've faced some of these things myself, so I know exactly what she's facing as a black woman. And for those who are jealous of her, in terms of her and Willie Brown and all that, the man had been not divorced, but he was separated from his wife for 8 years. They didn't live together. And that's very common in California. He had other relationships too. Relationships that they had was under a year. He appointed her to 2 boards. One was an insurance commission. The other one was an unemployment commission. She was already a DA when she met him, but the way that the people contort when it comes, excuse me, I'm almost done. The way the people contort for Trump, who's an adulterer, and his scumbucket wife. Come on, call a thing and call it what it is, and just say you don't like her.
Okay, everybody mute up. Everybody mute up. Everybody mute up. Thank you very much. And I specifically called on Madison because I knew Madison was going to stand on the square. That's why I called on. And she has a right to her. Hold on, Mike Fraser, because Brian's next, and then you, and then Abby. Brian?
All right, I hope you can hear me. I'm trying to finish some stuff up on the farm here. Saying that Harris has more brains on her head than Trump at all. Her and her administration have done nothing but trying to stop farmers from farming, growing crops. The Waters of the U.S. they passed has not allowed farmers to be able to farm ground that has water on it for 10 days. It's now declared a wetland and you can't farm it. She's still supporting those policies. Her staff at her campaign office are leaking to reporters by 2050 they want farmers to be net neutral on carbon emissions, and they can't even prove what carbon emissions there are other than top-down studies. And I do a lot of stuff for agriculture. We are, a nationally recognized farm, what we do here, that we are low on emissions. We're doing what's good for the environment, and I probably won't make it through to 2050 based on some of these policies. So you want to talk about what they're getting wrong? Agriculture, middle America. Her VP pick is not well liked in the Midwest, and he's not a Midwest boy. And I just wanted to say that. I know it's off the topic of all of this other stuff, but we need to quit focusing on that and actually what they are and what they stand for, because the Midwest is really concerned when it comes to agriculture and farming. Are we going to be able to keep farming? She wants to get rid of the stepped up basis so that I can't inherit the farm. Any sweat equity and stuff doesn't count for any of the work I've done, because now if we get over $2-3 million, which isn't hard to do. I mean, I have 3 tractors worth $300,000 that we use on a daily basis to do farming. It doesn't take much to get to a few $1 million. And I'll leave it there, but we can keep focusing on Trump, and he's just this worst, horrible guy. But at least he had people in his cabinet underneath of him that worked with farmers. Agriculture has played nothing but defense for the last 3.5 years to keep farming. And currently, I'd like to see a change. I'll leave it there.
You sound white, so you probably deserve whatever she tells you.
Wait, we're not doing that, Ricky. Hold on. Listen, Madison's my friend and I respect her, and she's allowed to have her lived experience spoken on the stage. So I'm going to go to Mike Frager than Abby. Mike, the mic is yours.
Yeah, so I live in San Francisco. She used to be the prosecutor here, and an interesting story came out that I read. So basically, she had prosecuted a particular black man, and when she convicted him, she looked him basically in the face and laughed at him. Only one problem. It turned out that he was innocent. And she sentenced him, or got him sentenced to a long term, but he was ultimately exonerated. And the state ended up paying him a settlement of $11 million. So I think this truly illustrates Kamala Harris. She's not only completely incompetent, but she's vicious and cruel. And I think if she becomes the president, it will be a disaster.
Well, Mike, let me just say this. Thank you for your share, but let me just say this. I know I'm going to get pushback on this, but, you know, people like to bring up numbers with her when she was the prosecutor, and I could be wrong. Let's say there was 1,500 people that got arrested under these marijuana laws. I believe 90% of them went to diversion programs. They didn't go to prison. So, you know, when people hold on, Abby, I see you. I got you next. And like I said, I could be wrong, Abby, but I know that she put them in diversion programs. Abby, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I'm in a good place right now. So, a couple things. First of all, Brian, thank you for bringing that up because it's such an important point about the farmers and about the stepped-up basis. And I hope people in this room understand the significance of getting rid of stepped-up basis for parents that work and generations that work their ass off, secure enough funds that they want to take care of the next generation, and then the next generation is totally screwed when they inherit and they end up having to go borrow money or pray there's some life insurance proceeds to be able to pay the taxes and what they're going to face because she gets rid of the stepped-up basis. I can go on and on just on the tax issues and trying to bump up capital gains tax now to 44.8%, which is just for, again, people that work their asses off, saved some money, bought some equities, decided to do some investments. They're totally screwed. I mean, that's just such a hefty amount of tax, along with the state tax that they'll be incurring. The corporate tax going up to 28%. I mean, I could go on and on just on the tax proposals, let alone taxing unrealized gains. But thank you for bringing up the farming issue because it sheds light so directly on killing an industry and killing something that is generations old. With respect to what Madison said, I found it very offensive. And to talk about someone being trash and not being credentialed versus candidates that you think are credentialed, I'd ask you to look at what universities both Donald Trump and J.D. Vance attended. If I remember correctly, both have Ivy League backgrounds. And then tell me where Waltz went to college and where she went to college. So if you want to just jump on credentials and say that one has so much more credential than the other, I would just start with the schooling because you're just dead wrong on that. And the difference between, although he had to be attacked by Waltz, a Yale law grad, which is also, by the way, where Hillary went and other people from the administration, is just absurd. So it can go by that. But if you'd like, I could just run through a few things like defunding the police and zero cash bail for repeat felony offenders, biological men competing in women's sports, which is a very personal issue for me, having a daughter that's in collegiate sports. I can go on with eliminating private health insurance, mandatory elimination and buyback of firearms, and what she wants to do to the Second Amendment, government-run healthcare, so we can be just like Canada, banning parents from stopping sterilization of children. I mean, it just goes on and on things that she wants to bring about that is just repugnant. And then the last comments about Trump, and I'm not even going to get into, I mean, I think there's so many grounds for appeal from the New York case, along with obvious stuff of allowing prejudicial testimony into that case that had no probative value whatsoever, not allowing key witnesses to testify, not allowing evidence to be submitted, jury instructions that were slanted. I mean, I could go on that one, but it sounds like you've already exhausted that part of the discussion. And one last thing, to absolutely trash someone who was a president that did accomplish some incredible feats during his presidency, and I'll leave with the Abraham Accords, and I dare any person in the chat or on the stage to tell me why the Abraham Accords is a negative and what Trump did was a negative by establishing the Abraham Accords. So I'm going to end with that.
So Abby, just
May I
answer your
respond
Hold
question.
on,
to
David.
since we addressed
Hold on a second. I'm going to give Madison a chance to push back, and then I'm going to go to David B. Go ahead, Madison.
I just want to say I find it rich that you offended Abby when you called her Kamala in the chat. So I find that rich that you can trash a VP like that. And I did not say her educational credentials. What I said was her experience, that she had more experience. And you obviously have no regard for Howard University, but I wouldn't expect you to. And in terms of defunding the police, it was about restructuring. They used the wrong terminology. They should have never said that. It was just a poor choice of words. And part of that came from them killing us. But you wouldn't understand that either. And so for the people who, talk about Kamala Harris, either she's too hard on crime or she's too soft on crime. Which is it? And for the guy who said that there was this guy who said, I've seen that video too, which there's no evidence that he was exonerated. There's no direct record of that actual case. And if you have a name, I would love for you to give it to me because I'd like to find that myself.
How selective is Howard University versus Yale, just in terms of selectivity in admissions and standards in admissions? Could you tell me the difference between the two law schools?
Just to answer her question real quick.
Jamal
Truelove was the name of the guy who was exonerated. I posted about 6 different articles of it in the chat, but his name was Jamal Truelove. It's really easy to look at what happened, and yes, he was paid a multi-million-dollar settlement.
And where did Waltz go to college? Someone remind me, versus Penn and Yale?
Yeah,
Just someone remind me?
that's Abby. The one thing I was going to answer.
Hold on a second. Hold on. David, give me a second. David, I'm going to go to you, and then I want to welcome Dr. Jordan. And Brandon, you can jump in anytime you want, bro.
Yeah, really quick. I was just 2 seconds. I was going to agree with Abby,
Hurrah for the red and the blue, David. Sorry.
Yeah, former President Trump was a graduate of Wharton, and J.D. Vance, the nominee for vice president, is from Yale. So yeah, it's a very simple argument. Yeah, and I'm sorry, don't see again.
All right, thank you, David. Dr. Jordan, how you doing today?
Good. Having a ball. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Did you want to come in on the conversation, or are you just going to hang out with the cool kids?
Well, I mean, I agree with Madison on many points. I also understand where Abby's coming from, but I think that we know that many people who go to Ivy League institutions are not necessarily getting there on their own merit. And so not everybody, but many. So, I mean, it's I don't know that that's the greatest gauge, but I do.
J.D. Vance didn't get there on his own merit? Are you serious?
Well, I went to Ohio State. I'm not exactly proud for grad school. I'm not really proud.
That's the Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, and to stay in an Ivy League school, I mean, trash what you want, but that's bullshit.
I'm not trashing them. I'm just saying that, I mean, that's not really reflective of much, particularly these days when we look back at legacy admissions. But that's not to say
I don't know how you can say that, based on the...
David, you've been drinking since 8 a.m. I don't know that if you went to Wharton, you should be showcasing that either.
I went to Penn, but I didn't go to Wharton.
He was in the college.
But I mean, you went...
Okay.
All right, guys, can we have a one-mic policy? Please stop interrupting Jordan, and then everybody will get a chance to get.
So, I mean, I respect people who get go to Ivy League institutions, but I know many who didn't get there on merit alone. So I don't necessarily use that as kind of a cutoff. I mean, you know, I think that I wasn't necessarily a fan of Kamala, but I will say my impression changed a bit after this speech because it was really quite inspiring and kind of hit all the bullet points that you would want. And in the meantime, regardless of whether people like Trump or not, he is just whining and complaining nonstop. I mean, it's just not a kind of a leadership quality for a fast food restaurant manager post. So I'm not so sure that credentials or experience matter as much as just some kind of basic etiquette and leadership leadership characteristics that I would want in any leader, much less president of the United States. So, but I understand where Abby is comparing, you know, the academic credentials. I mean, that's one facet, but that's not certainly everything for me.
I was reacting to someone saying that they weren't credentialed compared to the Democratic nominees, and I was comparing just on academics alone. So I was reacting to what was being said.
No, that's fair. I think that, you know, I guess what I do today, I listen with a filter, and as eloquent as someone is. Now, Biden, for example, I don't think of Biden as being particularly eloquent, right? So he doesn't actually cut the muster for me, but you know, I don't know that, and Kamala is certainly not as eloquent as Obama, for example. But I think that last speech was pretty solid, and I think she embodied much of what came out of her mouth.
Oh, David, David, hold on a second. Let me move David down, because like you said, he's probably been drinking all day, and that's his prerogative. But I have a question for Abby. Brad, I got you. You're going to go next. But let me ask Abby this question, if that's okay, Counselor.
Of course. I told you I'm on a high this weekend. It was Springsteen all week, so I'm in a good place. Go ahead.
Good for you. Do you feel, with her being a former prosecutor, attorney general, senator, vice president, that she lacks experience to take the position?
This app, you try to answer and it doesn't let you get your mic so fast. First of all, as a prosecutor, as I learned a little bit, she pled out most of the cases that she actually tried herself and had very few jury trials. She was in an administrative role as a prosecutor. I don't think that her time in the Senate, she was extremely, probably one of the most left-wing senators there was in the Senate, her and Bernie, probably, you know, took up that whole pocket of the left. She wasn't in the Senate that long. And in terms of her being a vice president, could you tell me what she actually did as a vice president? Because from everything that I remembered in the last 3.5 years, it didn't seem that she had much of a significant role. However, if you want to tell me that she was very significant in the Biden-Harris administration, then she needs to take responsibility for all the screw-ups that happened during that administration. So she either did bullshit, or she, and I don't find her, and I'm comparing her to someone who was a president of the United States.
But Abby, let me ask you.
4 years.
Abby, let me ask you.
Can I go next, Jay?
You're asking a question. You might not like that answer, but that's...
No, the answer's fine. That answer's fine, but my rebuttal question to you is, tell me one vice president that was significant.
Cheney. Very significant.
Cheney? Okay. How many years ago was that?
Cheney? I mean, when was Bush president? From 2002 to, help me out on the years. No, when was 9/11? He was president 2000
to 2008.
2008.
And then Obama. Yep.
And then but you asked me a question. It wasn't that long ago, and Dick Cheney was an incredibly effective vice president.
Joe Biden.
You might not like what You might not like what he did, but he was significant in his role. Again, she either did nothing, or if she was active with the Biden-Harris administration, then she's responsible for deaths in Afghanistan and how we left Afghanistan. That she has to bear responsibility for the screw-ups in that administration. It's either one or the other, like it or not. So choose your poison on that one.
Thank you, Abby. Let me say hello to Brad real quick. What's up, Brad? And then we'll go to
Hey, I was just curious because I heard Jordan talk about like he's looking for a leadership, and I'm curious about where are the leadership qualities that actually align with Kamala Harris, because if you're going based on her experience as a prosecutor, her office was fraught with corruption. In fact, she had a huge, massive drug issue where she had people in her office cycling drugs out and kind of cherry-picked which judges she was going to go to and tell that information until forced, which actually caused problems on her. People will say she takes a leading role in the Senate. I find that ironic because over 50% of the time she was absent. She wasn't there. So I'm kind of confused on that one. She also never got any of the 141 pieces of legislation she submitted passed, so I don't know where that leadership goes. Joe Biden as a VP basically camped out for Obama's agenda in the Senate. He brought a sleeping bag and basically pitched there until the ACA was passed to whip votes and get his policies passed, whether you liked them or not. Joe Biden was effective in that area, and he's the reason why Obama is credited with the success of the ACA, even though he basically didn't do so. But Biden also went overseas. He did things in Ukraine. We're all well aware of that. He had a foreign policy position where he took on multiple different countries, cementing allyship. Kamala's not really known for that. Her failure in the Northern Triangle because nobody wants to give her the borders policy, that didn't work out so well. And I'm just confused as to where all this goes. The only thing people can point to is how well she was in the Kavanaugh hearings, where she had a prepared set of speeches. And again, it just falls so flat. Like, you didn't like her in 2019. You didn't even like her 4 weeks ago. In fact, you called her the Kamala problem. That wasn't Republicans. That was Democrats. That was your CNN. That was your mainstream pundits saying, how do we get around the Kamala problem? It's just amazing to me that Democrats got told, hey, you just need to vote for this person. And then all of a sudden, she's the greatest leader that ever existed or ever will be. And it was just 4 weeks. It's an amazing transformation.
Well, Brad, let's keep it real. People are voting for her because she's not Donald Trump. That's that. Most people, not everybody. Some people do believe
That's 100% right.
And also, people are tired of the depressive negativity that they've been experiencing probably for the last 8 years that has to do with Trump and Biden as well. And so, the people have spoken. Obviously, they're behind her. But I did want to just say something, Jay, because the conversation keeps changing because, of course, the goalpost always moves. And I don't have to defend Kamala's record. You can go to Congress.gov. You can see what she's done. But and so I stand by what I said in terms of Howard, and Howard is also specializes in leadership training for Black people. So it's very specific, and they're celebrated for their political science program, their business program, communications. My son just graduated summa cum laude from there. But when it comes to this, thank you, Jay. But when it comes to, he was 1 point away from valedictorian. But when it comes to Trump and the Wharton School, and which was just played up so much, when he was there, because he transferred there from Fordham, and his niece said that he paid somebody to take his SATs. I don't know how true that is. That's what she said. And then there have been several books that have been written about his time there. One professor was quoted as saying he was the dumbest goddamn student he ever had. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit and put a button on that for myself with his quote-unquote education and his academic rigor that is very obvious whenever he opens his damn mouth.
Having
thank God we all got
to do with University of Pennsylvania. I don't. It's a trash pen. Like You just have no right to, and you don't know about the school, and you don't know about Wharton, and to survive in Wharton, which is very rigorous and a very tough curriculum, you just don't skate through Wharton. So you're just dead wrong on that. And you may not like them. There may be tons of things about them you don't like, but no, you just don't go to Wharton and get through it so easily. It doesn't work that way.
I didn't trash Wharton. Do you have a issue
you guys are done with your
understanding?
queue?
I was talking about Trump. I wasn't talking about the school itself and how he got in.
Yeah, and I'm
and how
talking
he
about
cheated,
Trump too. And
what
you don't
and
know
what his
how he got
professor
in,
said.
and
So
you
you
don't
said,
know what
well,
it's
I was
like to
very
be
clear
there and to
when
study
I
there.
said what
You
was
don't know.
asserted.
You
What I
don't
said
know.
what was
You
asserted
don't
about him.
know, and you're trying to act like you
But what
do, and you
but what
don't. You
that's
just
not
don't.
true. That's
You
not true at
don't.
all.
It is
Because
absolutely true.
if
When
you
do you know?
listen
What do you know about
and
Penn? When have
if
you
you
been
were
at Penn? When's the
capable,
last time you spent time
okay,
at
well
Wharton?
I'll let
When
you
have you been
finish.
to a class at Wharton? Have you ever been to a class at Wharton? Have you ever spent time at University of Pennsylvania? Do you know anything about it? No, you don't.
Okay,
This
so
is
now I'll answer
conjecture. You know
the rhetorical questions that you ask. I didn't even mention Penn,
Yes, you
which
did. That's
shows that
Wharton. That's where
I
you
didn't
went to
even
school. Do you remember that that's the business school of Penn?
what I said was the school itself and how he got in and the cheating and that it was purported by his niece. I said
So
I don't
what?
know if it's
You think his
and what I
niece?
let
You
me
think his
finish
niece
because
didn't have
you
an
just
axe
got
to
done
grind?
talking.
Bullshit.
So could you just stop? Are you done?
No, are you done?
So what?
Are you done?
You asked me a
Because
question. I
you're
was
casting
done.
aspersions on.
Okay,
I
so
wasn't
can you both
I
please
wasn't talking
stop?
over
Please
you.
mute up. Both of you, please mute up. I'm gonna wait till you're both muted. I don't see a mute on your face, Madison. I'm waiting on it. There
I
we
was
go.
next. Let me get
Thank
in.
you,
Right.
thank
No,
you.
no,
There's
no, no,
things on
no.
this attachment
No,
to
no,
like
no,
this
no,
idea
no.
of like I'm in
Okay,
a
so
queue,
now you're
right?
talking about the audience, because I don't usually do that in Jay's room, but let me just, what I would like is for everyone to be respectful of other speakers. I get Abby spicy, I get Madison spicy. We enjoy both of you in the house, we enjoy both of you in the room, which is why you're both giving grace. But when it starts to get into what feels like personal nitpicking, it just takes away from the broader conversation the room's gonna have. So I'm gonna kind of segue us a little bit, because I feel like you both expressed what you think and feel on that, and it was getting it into a little bit of a girl fight that I'm not really interested in, and that's gonna limit the rest of the room. So one thing that I wanted to come off mic and chime in on was that when you try to compare HBCUs to Ivies, you're always going to have a problem. And it's because they're not comparable. And it's not that they're not comparable because of the skill set. It's not that they're not comparable because of the professorship. It's that when you look at the funding and the legacy in Ivies, and you look at the funding and legacy in HBCUs, even in the oldest HBCUs, they have never had the same funding access. They've never had the same professorship access until contemporary times. And so to try to compare a business program at Howard with a business program at Penn or a business program at Yale, you're going to run into the issue that Howard is just now getting their feet under themselves as an academic powerhouse. Yale and Penn have had a long time to do that. And so I don't minimize where Howard is. I don't minimize the education you can get at Howard. But Howard is not the institution that Yale is. That doesn't mean in 50 years it won't be that institution. That doesn't mean in 50 years it won't surpass what Yale is. That simply means you're dealing with a different reality of how professorship is earned, in what budgets look like, in what the starting funding different departments have, in the years of reputation to take the top scholars. Because if you go to Howard's business program and I take the top 1% of those students, and I go to Yale and I take the top 1% of those students, they're probably comparable. That top of the cream of the crop is probably comparable. If I go take the bottom at Wharton and I take the bottom at Howard, I would bet my left testicle the bottom at Howard is going to be higher. And it's simply because they have had longer to get their roots in the ground and an anchored in professorship that's qualified. Because we don't have 200 years of qualified black professorship in this country because we didn't allow it to happen.
I mean,
And so
you can
when
definitely
we do
compare
these
it, though.
comparisons, okay, I'm not sure why in the world I'm being interrupted. I'm not really sure where that request was, but I can tell you I didn't make it, so it's not necessary. So when we try to compare these things, you're comparing apples and pineapples, right? So I would never try to say, Howard is better or Howard is worse. It's a different institution. It's a different experience. The professorship standards are a little bit different. The focus is a little bit different. And so, anytime we get into those comparisons, it makes me cringe because when you try to compare dissimilar things, you end up in a really messy place.
Thank you, Counselor. So I just want to say something real quick. I'm not going to call anybody out specifically. But guys in the chat, I usually let stuff in the chat just go. I don't really give a shit what you guys say there, you crab warriors. But please let's not use people's last names and dox them. Keep that, if you know somebody's last name, no need to put it in the chat. Because, Madison, you're my friend. Abby, you're my friend. I love when you two speak. I just wish you guys could speak civilly to each other and not get so heated. Me personally, I don't care where they went to school. I could care less. But I understand why you're standing on your squares. So let me say hello to Ben real quick. What's up, Ben?
Hey, Jay. I just wanted to come over and say hi to you and everybody else. I don't know if I should chime in at all, but...
why are you afraid to wait. Time out, Jordan. Are you afraid to jump in the deep end?
Well, okay, why don't I take the shallow end? I think, this talk about school, warden or HBCU, it's interesting, obviously, but I think Kamala definitely is sort of counter-programming. When she was ready to pick a vice VP, she didn't go for a Yale or Harvard or Stanford or whatever. It may be coincidental, but I think with Walz, she definitely, presented her team, the VP and the vice president and herself as really not the middle of the road. I think she's trying to appeal to voters from a different spectrum, if you will. And that's probably, I have to think it's working, at least. It definitely energized portion of the voting population. And as far as, this comparison of IVs and all, I think Dr. Jordan, he has a point there. Ivy League schools in general, like Brian was saying, better resourced, it's better school, sort of averagely speaking. But there are definitely people who got in there through a legacy. And there's nothing wrong with it, by the way. If I were rich, a billionaire, I would want my kids not to work that hard to get into a top school, which I'm assuming that Vance, got in not because of legacy. I'm just making that assumption, to Yale.
He did not.
So whatever that is, in the end, here's what I'm going to land my little speech with. Today is 25th or 4th, I don't remember, August, right? And November 5th is, a few months away. From this point till November, I think what really matters is voters are going to look at only two people for now, Trump versus Harris. This is not, I think having a love fest or hate fest against either, I don't think it has that direct correlation with who's going to come out as a winner. Eventually, what my opinion is, what ended up happening would be whoever a voter or all voters could bear to stomach, that person is going to get a vote. Is Harris the best vice president in history? Of course not. Is there going to be a better person as a Democrat to be the presidential candidate? Of course there is. But guess what? She's the Democratic nominee. And I think same thing goes for Trump. Unless he does something drastic as, giving up the candidacy and pull somebody else younger, like Biden did. I don't think that's going to happen. So eventually we're looking at a possibility, in Vegas, going to where Abby is in Las Vegas, right? If we're going to put money on who's going to be the winner November 5th or 6th, whatever, I think that's the most interesting question. And that's beyond whether we can hate someone or
say something we love, one of these two people did, we really enjoyed or we agree with, it really doesn't matter. Or what schools they went to or blah, blah, blah. I think eventually it's going to be who can you stomach to vote for one of them. I think that is probably interesting discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate
Okay.
it. So, Brad, let me ask you a question, Brad. Hold on. Jordan, I'm going to come back to you right after Brad, I promise. Brad, I'm going to be honest with you. You know, I'm following the presidential election. I'm not really following any of the Senate or congressional races right now. How's it looking for both sides?
You know,
Republicans still have it. Oh, you asking Ben or Brad?
I wasn't sure.
Asking Brad. Brad.
The Republicans still have an edge in the Senate. The House, I would still say, is at 50-50 right now.
Yeah, the polls the polls that happened on Monday. Yeah, this is overall.
Senate looks like the Republicans will pick it up.
Yeah, it's amazing, like the polls that came out, but yeah. So, thank you.
But Jay, more to the point, I think a lot of the earns, particularly with people like me, is I can agree. Like Biden was my president. I didn't agree with his decisions, but I don't think everything he did was 100% bad. The problem that I have with what I would say is the shills is the fact that you and I discussed this the other day. Is it wasn't the people on the ground floor at the DNC convention that chose Kamala Harris. It was the people in the $5 million boxes in the glass house that chose it. Now, I know there's money all throughout politics. I know how it works. But to have such an overt front of showing that the only reason Biden dropped out was because the large super donor said, no, it's time for you to go. You're polling badly, and we want to return on our money. And then voila, Kamala is there. And it was so flagrant that even pro-liberal or pro-left reporters were making a mockery of it. So at least that's what I've gotten a consensus on. So when you're sitting there watching the fact that she got up there and gave those, platitude speeches that really didn't signify anything, and then it was only for the top tier echelons and not the people in the bottom row who may or may not think that she actually represents them, I guess I have an aversion to something such an affront to our politics. I really do like votes. I really do like having people say, hey, this is our choice. And honestly, let's all be honest in this room, Kamala never would have made it through a primary season at all. There's no way she would have made it through.
Well, actually, the saddest part of that, Brad, is that nobody voted for her. That's the sad part.
Well, hold on, David. Dr. Jordan, I know you wanted to chime in. Thank you, Brad. Dr. Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to belabor the education thing. I just think it's very interesting. It's kind of like it's engineered in a way that really serves certain demographics. I was looking at the Kennedy family, Eunice's kids, 11 kids, and looking at where they went to school, and it's interesting. Some of them picked really high, esteemed institutions based on name alone. Others you could learn about, picked schools based on what they actually offered them in terms of unique curricula. I think that, unfortunately, I think what Donald Trump demonstrates is that, these things are engineered. And I don't think we should even be, I don't think it's worthwhile to get into that conversation because I don't think it's a good look for the Ivy League, to be honest, that he's at all associated with them in any regard. But furthermore, and this is not to suggest that people who don't have a graduate or professional degree aren't very intelligent or aren't educated in their own right, but he's one of the first presidents in modern history not to have a graduate degree. That's probably more of a reflection of his acumen than anything. And that's not to take away from it. I mean, you don't necessarily need it for what he was doing, but even George W. Bush had an MBA, I believe. And so, I mean, it's like, I think we're looking at it through the wrong lens, but there's a lot of hype And so I don't I have, and I'll land here. I have relatives. I have a cousin who went to Yale. He turned down Harvard to go to Yale. I have a cousin who went to Harvard Law School, who is certainly not the genius of the family. The genius of the family went to Case Western Reserve. He's high on the spectrum. The kid is a genius. He wouldn't have fit into a school. He wouldn't have fit into the Ivy League, because if he had to leave home, it would have been more problematic for him. So he stayed in the Cleveland area and went to Case Western Reserve University. He's now a physician, believe it or not, but he lacks the social grace to really benefit from some of the institutional culture and the provisions that the Ivy League would have offered him. So, I mean, people choose things for all kinds of reasons. However, when you do go, when you are running for office, public office, it doesn't hurt to have those names, but they really don't mean anything. And I think, if anything, they make you suspicious of how the person got in. And that, I think, is the danger of the American education system at the nexus of education and privilege.
Well, let me jump in here. Let me jump in here real quick, Rick. I got you. But I want to ask Madison a question. I'm trying to think of a way to put it where, because she's my friend and I respect her, and I love when she comes to my rooms. But Madison, do you think it's more? And I'm not saying Miss Abby said this. It's just a feeling from the conversation as it's flowing, for me at least, my interpretation. That it sounds more elitist than racist, Madison.
Jay, I'm only going to address you if I don't get cut off, and then moderate it after getting cut off.
Well, the mic is yours. Please, nobody cut her off.
Okay, Jay, before she starts, though, I want to be very clear. It's Jay's room, so I'm going to defer. What we almost never do, and I don't do, is allow anybody to come into this house and set the terms in which they'll engage, right? We have rules that apply to everybody. We have policies on when we interject as moderators. We have a one mic policy. So, this house has never bowed to somebody making the demand you just tried to make, right? We will engage respectfully, but if you're going to come into healthy debates, I'm going to ask you, like everybody else, to just expect to engage under the standards in this house and not think you're going to come dictate specific terms under which you're willing to speak, because we don't operate that way.
Well, I know how you operate. I modded in here 2 nights ago, Bren. And the fact of the matter is that your policy didn't apply to everybody.
You moderated in a room I was in?
Because I was the one.
You moderated in a room I was in.
You weren't here. I said in this group.
Okay, which is my point, right? This is my point. I am very clear, and I dare anybody to bring up a room where I am not on everybody's ass about following the same standards. Now, we have moderator autonomy in this house. This is Jay's room. He could say, fuck it, I want to do what I want. We're doing things how I want to do it. And I would back off. I'm just reminding everybody, because what happens is when we give grace in one room, people then come into another room that's mine or Kelly's and think they're going to set the tone under which they're willing to speak, which is why I wanted to make the point.
Okay, so if that's the case, if it applies to everybody, why did you allow her to cut me off and then make us both stop talking after that without allowing me to finish my point when I was responding?
So I allowed you to interrupt her. I allowed her to interrupt you because it's Jay's room. Once it reached the point, in my judgment, that it sounded like a pathetic catfight between 2 women who are far too intelligent to be engaging in it, then I stepped in and shut you both down. You interrupted her, she interrupted you multiple times, and the engagement was going fine. It hit a point where it really did feel like the 2 of you were going to sacrifice the room to nitpick at each other, and both of you are far too intelligent for that, so I took the moment to come in and moderate, right? But I gave you both the space to self-moderate until it was clear you weren't going to, and that's why I stepped in when I did.
Thank you for your explanation, Bren. I don't agree with that. We can move on from it because it was impossible for me to interrupt her when I was the one who was talking.
Madison, let's move past this. Let's continue. We're having a great conversation tonight. My question to you was, from the statements that I'm hearing in this room and reading in the chat, and this is my opinion, I think it's more of an elitist view, not a racist view. Just my opinion. What do you think?
I think it can be both. And I think that is illustrated by the fact that, and I put this in the chat, that there are some people who, no matter what an individual does, like in the case of Obama, who went to Harvard, people still say that he's not intelligent. People still call him a monkey. People still say those things about him. So it can be a combination of the both. It really just depends on who you're talking to. So to avoid that, I usually don't bring up HBCUs for that very reason, because I know that they're discounted across the board for either of those reasons. And I only illustrated that because that's why I was sure that I did not bring up education, because I didn't on purpose. I actually wrote my points down, as a matter of fact. So I know what I said and what I didn't say. So I didn't bring that up. I only responded to it based on the fact that I wasn't comparing the schools, Wharton and Howard or Yale or Harvard or any of that. What I was comparing was the propensity for Trump to cheat, and that his niece said that he cheated. I never said that he did. I said his niece did, and a comment that one of his professors made about him. I didn't say anything singularly about the schools themselves.
Thank you, Madison. Ken Frankel, how you doing?
Hey, good. I just wanted to make a quick comment on something Dr. Jordan said, just to kind of correct the statistical record. So, Dr. Jordan, on this issue of where presidents went to school, keep in mind a couple of things. One is we don't elect presidents that often, so you're going to just statistically get incredible anomalies because you don't have a great size of a pool, okay? But if you strip out the lawyers, okay, then you don't have a lot of presidents with postgraduate, whatever you want to call postgraduate degrees beyond 4 years, okay? Because most of them have it because they're lawyers. So you go back and look. Eisenhower went to a military academy, 4 years. That's it, okay? Ronald Reagan, 4 years, 4-year college. First President Bush, 4-year college. So it's not that unusual. And by the way, if you go back far enough in time, there was a time when lawyers didn't need to go for undergraduate. I believe that Thomas Jefferson was able to become a lawyer without going to undergraduate, because lawyers used to become lawyers through apprenticeships. So I wouldn't make any kind of statement about postgraduate degrees, because I think it only really applies to the people who became lawyers. But I think if you look at a lot of the non-lawyers who were president, most of them didn't go beyond 4 years of college. George Bush, the second President Bush, was an exception.
Okay, I'm going to respond, and then hopefully you move on from this. I was responding to a comment where it was mentioned that they had crappy credentials compared to the other ticket. So my response was to bring up the education and the level of the selectivity of the schools. To answer your question that you asked, I have been in a position for many years in my life where I hired lawyers. And in hiring lawyers, if I had someone from Harvard or Yale or one of the top 10 law schools in the country, they would absolutely have an advantage in being hired, assuming they met all the other criteria that were needed. And in fact, most of those graduates end up commanding much higher starting salaries because of where they went to law school. That's just how the legal profession is. Like it or not, that's the reality of it. If you graduate from Penn Law, if you graduate from Harvard Law, Yale Law, your starting salary, there's a good chance you'll get into one of the more major firms in the country, and you're going to have a higher starting salary. You may have compression, which is what happens in law firms. That's a different conversation. However, that's one of the reasons that you choose a better law school, because you make more money and you have access to better firms, to clerkships with higher level judges. That's just the reality. So to say that I'm racist because I think that Yale Law School is a better law school than Howard Law School, that's just a reality. And you can look at the statistics. out of those, what the LSAT scores are, what the GPAs are of people that get accepted to those schools, and what law firms hire them and what their starting salaries are. And that's in the legal profession been the norm for as long as I've been in it. So you can move on from this. I brought up the schools because she was attacking the credentials and the ability of one ticket versus the other, and I raised it. And by the way, nobody has answered yet where Walt went to school. And I know we probably should move on from the subject, but I can't seem to get an answer to that one.
They answered it.
And that's
It was
when
answered
comes
in the
to-
chat.
From what I just
Can
heard,
I
that's when it
jump in?
comes to.
Anyway, hold on a second. Madison, I need you to just hold on 1 second. I'm going to come to you in a second. But Ricky's been waiting to speak, and then I'm going to come back to you. Okay, Madison? Go ahead, Ricky.
Thank you. I don't really. Probably the worst conversation I like to have on Clubhouse is about elite schools and blah blah blah. But you guys know more about that than me. I will say this: probably the thing that is most frustrating over the last 8 years is constantly having to defend and rationalize my position for who I vote for this orange-haired beauty, Donald Trump, right? It's not about who he says grabbed by the pussy by or anything like that. The reasons that people vote for him are completely detached from that. They're bigger issues to those people. Different people value things differently. But the one nice thing about it is he says what he wants to do, as crazy as it is, and then he goes ahead and moves forward to try and achieve whatever it is. It could be something crazy as, you know,
You're in the vortex, Rick.
supporting.
Ricky, you're in the matrix, my friend.
He was going to deport. Sorry, okay. All right, I'll come right back. Go to.
All right. It's glitchy tonight.
You're in the vortex,
Tip,
my friend.
Tip, I got it. Hold on, I'm gonna come to you soon. I promise. But I want to go to Andre, then I'm gonna go to Tip. Before I do that, Brandon, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Can you enjoy the money for a little while? I'm just gonna go to Andre, Tip, and then just take control. Unless you want to close.
Sure. So, did you say Andre and then Tiffany?
Yeah, you did. I'll be here for a bit.
Oh, Tip.
All right,
Andre, can I go right after them?
Hey, Jay.
Yes, Ricky, I got you. How you doing, Andre?
Good. Good to hear you.
Pleasure's mine. Do you want to jump in on the subject? Whatever the subject may be.
I mean, listen, Trump is not, I wouldn't say he would be my choice for the Republicans. So just the same way as Kamala is not my choice for Democrats. But, this is the kind of hand that we were dealt. And as much as, Trump is, he's not a very good human being. He's very shady, and he runs his mouth all the time. So, like, on personal level, I find it very difficult to like him or, to associate with him. But, what he represents at the moment, I think, is something that is very needed for the direction that the country has been going into. And he's sort of an antidote for the type of the progressive craziness that's been happening for the past, 4-8 years. So, it's one of those instances where you hold your nose and you vote for what you perceive to be better direct.
Thank you, Andre. Tip, man, I know you've been patiently waiting to jump in. How you doing, my friend?
Good. How you doing, brother? It's very interesting. Like, people from abroad, they have so much support for Trump. Even people internally, they have so much support for Trump. And, like, acknowledging that is it's degeneracy. Like, I don't see how they coalesce those two things. They say in one vein, this guy's crazy, but he's necessary. Like, I never experienced nothing like this.
When do we say that somebody's out of their fucking mind and say, well, no, he's out of his mind, but he's necessary? You know, so this is like a shift to the ethos. This is like a matrix shift. We don't give a fuck about psychopaths, and we try to qualify psychopaths, and we lean into psychopaths, and we do everything in our power to measure psychopaths. Like, so yeah, we're watching you psychopaths, because you are indeed are psychopaths, to like make sense of this psychopathic shit. So yeah, we're watching you, and it's okay. And you just be psychopathic, okay? That's what you're doing, all right? We're watching you psychopathic motherfuckers. That's how that works.
Thank you, Tip. I
Wow,
appreciate
that
it.
was amazing. That was so
Hold on. Everybody, hold on. You're going to get a chance to push back, but I'm handing the keys over to Brandon, Dr. Jordan. Brandon Jordan, it's all yours, guys.
I just wanted to respond to what he said, Brandon. I'm not trying to get in the queue.
Okay, so let's start with Dr. Responsible, then we'll go to Wesley, then Madison, and Andre.
Okay. I don't want to even push back at that. Let me just say this. Different people value different things differently. I don't know if you can understand that, but some people don't think that this man is a psychopath. Some people think that he says crazy things. That could be true. But no one thinks that he's a psychopath that is voting for him. They might just disagree with the way he operates through his mouth. Pause. Anyway, one thing that is different, right, between voting for the decision between Kamala and Donald Trump. Donald Trump says things that people find crazy. He says policies that some people find radical and other people find to be complete common sense. But what he says, he's actually trying to do, right? Whether he's out for the American people, he does this strictly for his love of American people. I don't know about that, and I don't care. But it is very frustrating to have to try and rationalize and defend the person that you want to vote for, have them trying to be taken off the ballot in multiple states by the Democratic Party, having them prosecuted on multiple spurious fucking cases that in the end I predict will amount to nothing, just like I predicted 2 years ago, and just like anyone who had any idea what was going on predicted. And have to justify voting for something that is very clear, laid out, and that I want. You might not want it. The difference is, somebody said earlier in the room, well, Kamala, she's moving more towards the center. No, she's fucking
Bro, you're a psychopath, bro. You're going down a long line of psychopaths.
So I don't know why on earth you'd be interrupting. Nobody interrupted you, which means you now get to mute and be quiet.
Psychopath.
Okay, so would you like to comply with the room's rules, or would you like to get the fuck out?
You're literally a psychopath. You are. You're not American. You're a fucking anti-patriot. You're a psychopath.
Okay, so you're blocked from this house and will not be...
No, block it out. You're a psychopath. That's who you are.
Okay, bye, douchebag. So in this house, we follow decorum or we get the fuck out. Those are the two options. Those are the options people have. I don't give grace a whole lot, and I certainly don't to pink ticket people who haven't put the commitment to join the house. Just be respectful. That's it. Nobody needs to interrupt anybody else. So whoever was speaking before he decided to be a douche, go ahead and finish what you were saying.
Yeah, basically what Donald, you might disagree with Donald Trump and what he says and how he says it, but he's actually saying what he thinks he's going to do, right? And then you have Kamala Harris, which I heard people saying, well, she's moving more towards the middle, she's getting more moderate. No, she's fucking lying, right? And this is not unique to the Democrat Party. The reason that Donald Trump has been accepted in the Republican Party is because his predecessors for president, vice president, so on and so forth in the Republican Party for the last 30 years have been such liars. that the Republicans are like, dude, this guy does sound a little crazy, but I'm willing to actually listen to it, take the good with the bad, because every president before me and every Republican before him has said that their main focus was fixing the border. Nope, wrong, didn't even try. Let things go to committee and let them die over and over and over and over and over again. They're looking for small government, lie, over and over and over again. And that's why Republicans have accepted Donald Trump, because we're so sick of being lied to. Now, Democrats, the voters, listen, the only obvious thing that I can see is that you haven't gotten to that threshold yet. You haven't gotten to the threshold where you're sick of your politicians lying to you, coming around black neighborhoods every 2 to 4 years, pretending they give a fuck about you, when really, in another 2 years, there will be no black power center in the Democratic Party or anywhere else. It'll be full Mexican. I don't know when you will get to the point where you're sick of your people lying to you, but don't get on me and everybody else, because we've had enough and we're ready to go listen to someone who we might not agree with everything, but at least is honest about the crazy things that they say.
I mean, this will be quick, Madison. Your share was pretty rough to listen to. Here, I'm some kid from Texas, y'all. I didn't grow up rich or anything like that. There's no reason on God's green earth that I should be up here potentially embarrassing myself in front of the globe, everyone on this stage. The reason I'm up here telling you, hey, this is really important. This billionaire, I don't want to live with him. I don't want him to be my roommate. I don't know the guy. I do know the media has painted a really bad picture. I doubt anybody in here that's been talking smack about him and his wife have even met these people.
I have.
This man loves America. He's lost a lot of money. They shot him in the face. He's getting something like 87% bad media coverage. This might be the reason you don't like him. They told you not to like him. Here's a reality check. America is at war. There are global elitists that have declared war on the entire earth. And they will win that war if they're able to disarm America and jail anybody that speaks out against it, like the COVID thing, the Russia hoax, all this. We're supposed to be scared and do what they say. Well, you know what? We don't want to. You know who doesn't have to? The billionaire from New York that found out how nasty this Democrat liberal agenda is. And I'm not saying he's got to live with you. All I'm saying is he's going to stand in front of us. We're standing behind him. Someone's standing in front of us. Someone has to. This guy said, I'll do it. He's getting out there. We got his back. Hold your notes you did it for 4 years. It wasn't that bad. If we screw this up, I am worried we'll be in war and economic times like we've never seen. So that's why we're so passionate. That's why we're up here doing it and willing to take on these attacks. This is our kids' future at stake. Go.
I've actually know him, so I'm going to tell you that, Wesley. And with respect to, and thank you for what you said, I guess I have a question to people. Pre-COVID, because COVID changed so much, how was your life when Trump was